Welcome to Stop the Fight, episode 23, and today we're going to talk about all thing boxing, not just this weekend's action. Let's go!
Don't brag about taking my side piece! Don't brag about taking my side piece, no!
I broke my back. Back is broken. Spinal.
He's strong, man, good boy, just...
Okay, first and foremost, the CaneloPlant unification for the undisputed super middleweight championships are off. They are off. And it seems as though CaneloPlant did not want the $10 million. That is honestly insane. It is insane. $10 million, even after fees, even after tax, even after all that, is life-changing money. And I'll tell you this much. I've watched the CaneloPlant fights, his recent few fights. I've been watching him since the Uskatugi fight. And he's not a particularly exciting fighter. He's not like somebody I can't wait to see CaneloPlant fight. He's not that fighter. He's a good fighter, no doubt. No doubt. He maybe even could trouble Canelo. But he turned down that fight. And this is... I don't know if he'll get another money-making opportunity like this. Canelo is the cash king in boxing right now, or one of them, but let's say he's like one of two or three guys who can really, really get you paid. He's certainly the biggest name in boxing right now. So turning down Canelo fights is not in the best interest of your career. You better have a lot of institutional backing. You know, when Canelo turned down the Golovkin fight earlier in his career, it made sense because Golden Boy was behind Canelo. Canelo was already a huge draw. You can tell that he did not need Golovkin at that time. You can tell. I think that was maybe 2013, 2014. He didn't need him. He could wait a few more years to get a little more seasoned, to wait Golovkin out a little bit. CaneloPlant is not in the same category as Canelo. He's 29 years old. He's not like a super rising star. The only people that know who CaneloPlant is are boxing fans like you and I. So $10 million he turned down. I don't even care what the reason is outside. I don't care. I don't think anybody cares. You can't... These kind of opportunities don't come around all the time. They just don't. And I don't know where CaneloPlant is going to go from here. I don't know who he's going to fight. Who is there to fight for him at super middleweight? Super middleweight is not a stacked division right now in its current form. So CaneloPlant... And especially after going for so long, and he's probably pissed off Canelo as well because this is really close to the September date where Canelo fights. And if if Canelo doesn't fight in September, that's going to be a huge miss for everybody. As Canelo is fighting a lot this year. Yildirim, what's his name? What the fuck? Why can't I remember his name? It's Gypsy guy. Billy Joe Saunders is a gypsy guy. So... Canelo's trying to stay active. He wants to fight 4 times this year, but, I just don't know who he's going to fight. Jacobs, Benavidez, who's he going to fight? Saunders is probably not ready to fight. There's nobody else at super middleweight that you'd even want to see him in there with. So, again, this kind of is, it's a shame. It's a shame because you really want to see Canelo run for greatness, A victory here, undisputed at 168, that's a big deal, guys. That is a very big deal, I think. Yes, titles don't mean everything, but when you are undisputed, when you can say that there is nobody who can even utter my name in contention, it's a different feeling. So it's a shame that we don't get it. I'm hearing rumbles that Dimitri Bivol will fight him. I don't know if it's going to be at 168 or at 175, but... That's an interesting fight. As you know, Bivol, like I keep saying, is a really small light heavyweight. He really shouldn't be a light heavyweight. He should be at 168 pounds. And if they bring him in against Canelo, that'll be interesting. I mean, we've seen that Bivol could be caught, though. And this is going to be one of those things where even though Bivol is an undefeated, really fast light heavyweight, he's a small light heavyweight. And I haven't really thought about the fight. And so I don't know what I would do in terms of what the pick is there. So yeah, that's a shame. We there's going to be, I think this is going to have bad consequences for CaneloPlant's career. I just don't see how he's going to get another fight like that. who's going to get in there with him? You know, who's going to give him that kind of money? Nobody. Nobody can pay you like Canelo. So I feel this was this is just a misstep on his part and on his team's part. All right, but this weekend, let's talk about something else. This weekend, we have Vito Mielnicki Jr. is going to try and avenge his loss to James Martin. Now, that was a huge upset at the time, man. So I know somebody who made a little bit of money on that because they, you know, there was issues with Vito, right? Vito did not want to be. He got rid of Joe Goosen as his trainer because he didn't want to spend as much time away from his family as possible. And he's still young at 19 years old, but those kind of sacrifices as a professional boxer, if you want to get to the world level at any sport and any endeavor, you will sacrifice your personal life. You'll be uncomfortable in areas. You cannot have an amazing personal life, an amazing professional life, and have it all. It does not work that way. It doesn't work. You want to become a world championship level fighter, boxer, MMA guy, whatever, golfer, your family will sacrifice. You have to devote time away from them. He didn't want to do that. He got rid of Joe Goosen as his trainer, and then boom, here he is against James Martin. And he loses a majority decision. Now, I thought that should have been a unanimous decision. I think he maybe won 2 rounds in that fight. He got beat up. His nose was bloody. Martin was landing at will, and Martin had no power, and he bloodied Mielnicki up. Martin is 7-2 with no knockouts, neither losses nor wins. So you kind of, you know, it was a teaching moment for the kid. But I don't know what he could have learned from that. He looked pretty soundly beaten. He was just beaten to the punch. I mean, maybe there was you know, mental issues going on. Maybe he just couldn't concentrate on the fight. Maybe he was just overlooking him. But he was getting beat at many facets of the fight. His positioning was off. His punches looked like they had no snap on him. You know, is he too maybe getting too big for welterweight? I mean, but that fight was a 152. That was already above his welterweight limit. You know, he's 6 foot tall. I mean, at 154, that's a reasonable height. I guess maybe he needs to go up to 160. I don't know. We don't know. We're going to see it again, but this is an important fight in Vito's career. Very important fight, this rematch with James Martin. If he loses here, oof, it's all the way back down to the bottom. He needs an entire retool. I mean, I would say he probably needed an entire retool after that first loss, or at the very least, he needed to be shaken up. But if he loses this rematch here, this is going to be he would need a complete rework of his entire boxing game at 19 years old. 19 years old. And then the whole thing needs to be redone. And that's okay, because at 19 years old, his foundation, he can still do it. He can still retool. He can go maybe back to Joe Goosen. Doesn't want to go Joe Goosen, get another trainer. But clearly, he's going to need an entire change in team, an attitude, and an outlook. You know, no one's going to look down on you if you can't be a boxer. Being a boxer or any fighter is an extraordinarily difficult thing. It's an extraordinarily difficult thing. It's not easy to get up in the morning, go do your road work, stay in tip-top condition, get punched in the face, you know, undergo extreme brain trauma. You know, boxing and all fighting, but boxing particularly, is not good for your health span. Very few boxers are mentally there. Very good boxers, named boxers, are mentally there in their 60s and 70s. They all sound a little bit like they're not there, like they've left a little bit of their mind, and in turn their dignity in the ring. So there is no problem with at 19, if he loses this fight, to go and turn around and say, like, you know what, this just isn't for me. I don't want to devote the time, the sacrifices to it, and there's nothing wrong with this. Sometimes we demand the most from our athletes, and they just can't give it. You know, to talk about, like, you know, I don't want to talk about the Olympic things with Simone, but she did quit. And in and of itself, that is a mark of an athlete. She was not better because she quit. No, she quit. She could quit, and that's okay, but you quit. And with that comes, when you talk about who's the greatest athlete, quitting under pressure like Simone did, for whatever reason it was, whatever mental issue it was a sign that she lacked the mental fortitude. She could be the most talented and physically gifted athlete, gymnast of all time, and the most winningest and the best one up until that point. But at this stage, the highest stage, she quit. There's no other way around it. She had every right to quit, but she has every right to be judged for quitting. It doesn't undo her previous. A lot of times people think that by saying this, we take away her status as and everything she did prior to this. No. She's still the most winningest gymnastic athlete of all time. She's still probably the what do you call it? The best athlete on any one given night. But on this night, she's not. And as of today, she's no longer the best gymnast in the world. She was not able to prove it. So you're only the best until you aren't. This is true in boxing. Us fight fans know this. You can be the best. Roy Jones was the best until he was knocked out, and he was no longer the best. It didn't take away anything he did prior to the knockout, but since the knockout, he's no longer the best. You cannot say he's the best. Same thing with Riddick Bowe. When he threw away that title, that's it. That's it. That's the way it works. Quitting has its own consequences. But we are not judging you for quitting and that's in the sense that we're like, oh, you can't quit. You can't quit. You can't say that this is too big. And it's okay that you did so, but with it comes certain choices. Like if Vito loses and quits, it'll be okay, it'll be understandable. But it'll also mean that he never had the character to be a fighter. Or he doesn't have something to be at that level. And this is something people have to understand that there are winners in life and there are losers in life. And some people have the stuff and some people do not. And there is no way about it. It's cruel sometimes. Sometimes you're given just a little bit of the stuff where you can recognize that, other people have more of it than you. Do you think other talented fighters who Roy Jones beat, like James Toney, didn't understand in their mind that while they themselves are very talented fighters, they are not as talented and will never be so like Roy Jones? Same thing with Floyd Mayweather. How many very good fighters very talented fighters? Look at Zab Judah. He may have been more talented than Mayweather, but he lacked the fortitude, mental fortitude. It's just true. Maybe it's not forward, maybe it's a different thing. But he lacked the overall composure that Mayweather brings to the game. And that composure cannot be taught often. You're born with it. And it's tested at the very highest level. So Vito, much like Simone, like I said, to bring it all back, Simone had every right to quit. And it's okay that she did so, but it does have an effect of where she stands as an all-time great gymnast. She can be an all-time greatest, like potential, like pound-for-pound gymnast, to use a boxing terminology, but she's not the greatest as of this week, and when she quit. End of story. So, like I said, why again? Like this relates to Milnicki because this is a very important and a very pivotal fight in his career. We've seen this kid on Showtime, I think on DAZN. He was pumped, a little bit like Ryan Garcia, but Ryan Garcia got up after Campbell knocked him down, and we do have some Campbell news. Just stay tuned a little bit. After Campbell knocked him out, he did get up. He finished the fight. And recently, he pulled out of a fight because he has his own, kind of pressure issues that he's dealing with. But that's okay because he was able to show at the highest level, for him, the Campbell fight was the highest level that he's been at, that he was able to stay composed. And when things got really, really rough and when the whole world was crashing on him, the hype was about to break and Instagram and Twitter were going off on him, he obviously didn't have Twitter at the time when he was knocked down, but he knew that as the whole internet is laughing at him, as his entire insides were probably turning and his mental state was collapsing, he was able to gather it together in his most exposed state and then come and then stop Campbell eventually. Those kind of things, that is supreme mental fortitude. So he had shown it. Him pulling out later is not a weakness in his forward. That's him understanding, like, look, I need some time. I need to breathe. Let me get myself together. I don't want this whole episode to turn into a mental health thing in boxing. But boxing and mental performance they go together. Like, this is half the sport is mental. Being the best athlete, the strongest, the fastest is not enough. We saw Charlo just now against the Hispanic kid really, 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 struggle with a guy who just had the mental fortitude to keep going. Charlo started to wilt. Not the Charlie just fought, his brother, Jamal. And so the mental fortitude, being the best athlete, is not enough in some of these sports. And in boxing, it's most certainly not enough. Your mental part of what makes you the best is also your ability to handle the pressure, to handle the stage, knowing that the world is looking at you and waiting for you to mess up. That and performing under that pressure is part of what makes an athlete the best, the greatest of all time, and stuff like that. So, again, speaking, I just mentioned Campbell, and news is breaking today. Just now, I actually think. News is breaking that Campbell is, in fact, retiring. Luke Campbell is retiring to spend more time with his family. He came 33 years old, today, Friday. It's 7 months after Ryan Garcia stopped him. He had a good career, Luke Campbell did. I think everyone can agree with that. He was an Olympic medalist. He won the gold in 2012, same year that Lomachenko won it. And he had a good career as a pro. He never became probably what you would the hype would say at points, because the British media, they love to hype their guys. And his first hiccup came a few years 3 years into his career against Ivan Mendy, where he lost a split decision. And then, he kind of started to rebuild himself, but then he lost to Jorge Linares. He avenged Ivan Mendy later, but then he had losses to Lomachenko and then a knockout loss to Ryan Garcia. So Luke Campbell, I think, was one of those guys that was... He wasn't at the world-class level. He was right below it. A good fighter. A top 10 guy, but the lower top 10. He's your 8, 9, and 10 type of contender. But he had a good career. I'm sure he made some money. The gold medal goes a long way. Charismatic, good-looking kid. But just not at the world championship level. Just not there. And again, that's okay. Not everyone gets to that level. He ends his career with 20-4, with 16 wins by knockout and 1 defeat by knockout. He had some power, and his last hurrah will be round 2 of the Ryan Garcia fight, where he nearly derailed Ryan Garcia, nearly put a little bit of a stop in that career for him. And, of course, dimensions play a role. If Luke Campbell wasn't a southpaw, he wouldn't be anywhere near the level that he got. Being a southpaw helped. Some people say, he got there only because he was a southpaw. Yeah, but it's like saying I only got there because I was tall, or I only got there because I punch hard. That's the boxer, guys. Vladimir Klitschko can only do it because he's tall and has a one-shot KO in his right hands and an amazing jab. Yes, if you remove Vladimir Klitschko's jab, he won't be Vladimir Klitschko's. And if you remove Luke Campbell's southpaw stance and height, he probably doesn't make it where he did. But, it was because he was as tall as he was, and it was because he was a southpaw, a good one at that he did win a gold medal, and he did make it where he did in the pros. I wish he would have won a real belt, but, that's okay. I think not everyone gets there. It's a very, very difficult thing, and, he has 3 kids, 3 sons, and I think he's made pretty decent money. He doesn't need kind of I think necessarily a championship, like a championship belt to make his career a success. Winning a gold medal alone is plenty of success for most people. And like I said, he was very close in the Linares fight to really winning, very close to stopping Ryan Garcia at a point in the second round. So we have to. Oh, and actually, just as we're talking, it just broke, guys. It looks like Martin is overweight for the Vito fight. He missed weight. He's not in the fight anymore. So we won't even know. Wow. So the entire 10-minute talk about Vito, however long that was, is pointless. He's going to get a new guy in there who steps in there. He won't get to avenge the Martin fight. Wow. Surprising from Martin, because as a guy who's 7-2 with no knockouts, no nothing, this could have propelled him. A win here could have easily gotten him in there with another name guy and gotten him, really paid well or more than he did now. Wow, that's something. So I guess like for the 10 minutes that you just listened to, guys, that's kind of going to waste. Vito will not be fighting Martin. All right. So yeah, okay. Eventful Friday. You know, I'm doing this on a Friday. I was busy this week. I couldn't do it yesterday. Couldn't record the show yesterday. So, and speaking of which, we got more breaking news. We have Lomachenko. Rumors are that he's going to face Richard Commey December the 11th. Wow. Okay, so looks like we are not getting the Teofimo rematch. We're getting Richard Commey, who Teofimo knocked out in 2 rounds as the fight with Lomachenko. And I think that's a good fight. That is a good fight because Commey did come back and recently knock out James Martinez. And wow. Here's why I'm not particularly too enthralled with this fight. I don't know what this gives Lomachenko. He's just chasing Teofimo. He's not going to get him out of there faster than 2 rounds. This is not going to be like, oh, I knocked out Commey just as quickly as you did. He's not going to do that. If Lomachenko stops him, it's going to be, again, an accumulation of damage. Lomachenko's not a puncher at 135 pounds. The fact that he stopped Nakatani was because, well, Lomachenko just really dominated him and just accumulation punishment. You can expect maybe something similar against Commey if he is going to get Commey out of there. But he's not going to get him out as emphatically as Teofimo Lopez did. So it's more of Lomachenko chasing Lopez. And if Lopez goes to 140, his chance of avenging that loss, well, diminishes. I cannot believe that Lomachenko will be able to go ahead and go up to 140. He certainly can. He's just too small at 135, let alone 140. So here we are now. I guess that's a lot of news for the day, right? All kind of breaking at the same time. Yeah, so we have a lot to think about in the next coming days. Again, I'm going to watch some of these cards that are on this weekend. You know, again, nothing is too big. We have Evander Holyfield's kid fighting. We have what's his name? Who Can fighting on the zone. So, you know, there's some stuff to watch. Again, none of these fights I really care about all too much. I'm going to watch just as like a fan. I'm taking off my Andre Durrell is fighting as well in New Jersey on Fox Deportes on the Kofi and Rice. It's actually Malinki undercard. Wow. So yeah, we're gonna watch some boxing, but not making too many picks. I'm actually making no picks this week, as I don't think there's any picks for me to make personally. So again, gonna be a lot of fun. Gonna think about all the news that's breaking, and we'll definitely talk about more of this on Sunday or on Monday. That's gonna do it for me. It's over.
I'm gonna go home and break my wife's hip.
Don't brag about taking my side piece. Don't brag about taking my side piece, though.
I broke my back. Back is broken. Spinal.
He's strong, man. Good boy. You know, just